Peter Badel, mate, on location here in Newcastle, mate.
Yeah, here we are.
Nikita Tszyu, Oscar Diaz, mate. Thoughts on this fight, firstly?
Yeah, look, I said on the commentary, I think it's a beautifully matched fight. I think it's the right fight at the right time for Nikita. We haven't had a lot of rounds from him in the last 2 years, 3 rounds, and I just feel we need to see more from Nikita. I mean, I think the desperate thing he needs is ring time, and I think he'll get that against Oscar Diaz. 16-0, 6 KOs, not a lot of power, but what I have seen of him is a raw, rugged, classic European sort of boxer. I don't think he's as fast twitches as Nikita, and he's not as powerful, but what he does have is some ring smarts, good IQ, not afraid to come forward, and he's a good counter-puncher as well. So I think he's going to give Nikita rounds, and it's what Nikita needs at this stage of his career. I think Nikita wins, but it won't be easy.
Mate, would be remiss of us not to talk about the big news of the day, mate. Tszyu-Errol Spence, press conference today, mate.
Yeah.
Your reaction to I guess, the press today, a few heated moments up there.
Oh, look, it's the spice we want. Magnificent. I mean, I think this is going to be one of the biggest fights in Australian boxing history. I mean, we've seen some wonderful bouts in Australia. Of course, we saw Nelson, Jeff Fenech. Then, of course, Jeff Horn and Manny Pacquiao, July 2, 2017, nearly 10 years ago now. Time's flown. And, of course, Devin Haney and Cambosis, the Quinella there in Melbourne in 2022. So this is going to be right up there with them. I think it could potentially be promotionally bigger than all of them. I think it's a beautiful crossroads fight. You've got 2 guys who seemingly are finished in the eyes of some. I mean, Tim, people think he's on the wane, and we haven't seen Errol Spence for 3 years in the ring, 1,009 days to be exact. So look, that raises real question marks at age 36. Is the truth no longer the truth? And look, I think it's the moment of truth for Tim. I think if Tim loses this fight, it's over for me. I'd retire if I was Tim. But I think Tim can find something in himself, especially with Jeff Fenech training him. I do think there's been criticism of the new union, but I think it's the right union for this fight. And I know there's been controversy about whether it's the right call, but I think Jeff's got the right motivational tools, because I think at this stage of Tim's career, I don't really think he learns a lot technically, although he will learn something, but I think Jeff's the right motivator for this fight, and I think Tim can beat Errol Spence, which would be massive.
What did you make of Tim Tszyu calling Errol Spence a disrespectful fuck today at the press retreat? What did you make of that line?
Yeah,
something I'd say about someone else.
Or something I might say. Look, look, it's wonderful. It's what we want. That's the pop and crackle of boxing that we love. We love heroes, we love villains, we love narratives, we love heels, baby faces, and that's what. Look, this has got roots. This feud is pretty deep seated, I believe. I mean, I know Tim was pissed off a couple of years ago about Spence having a crack at him, saying that he wasn't as good as his father, and I know that always touches a raw nerve with Tim because of what he's had to overcome to walk out of Costa's shadow and be his own fighter. So, look, I think what I loved about it, though, Macca, was this is a sign that Errol Spence is the real deal for this. He's not coming here for a holiday. I mean, I know they said that about Tony Harrison when he came here in 2022, that it was just a payday for him. I don't think it's a payday for Errol Spence. I mean, he will get paid well, but I think Errol still feels like there's more greatness in him. And look, I know he hasn't fought for a long time, but they say form's temporary, class is permanent, and I don't think Tim can underestimate the fact that he's had this hiatus, Spence. I think we're going to see a classy Spence. We're going to see a beautiful fighter, a generational fighter. And look, is he the same fighter he was since that car accident? Maybe not. Maybe the Crawford beating's taken a bit more out of him. But geez, one thing you can't deny is he'll be fresh because he hasn't fought for 3 years. So look, this is a beautiful crossroads fight, and the bad blood between them will really amplify things. And I think tension on the night, I can't wait to be there. It'll be awesome stuff.
Last one for you. Saw Tim Tszyu settle that legal dispute with Glenn Jennings, mate. The stability is back with Tim Tszyu.
Yeah, look, I'm so glad it's over, Jay. Look, I've reported on it. You don't like to report on those things, although they were genuine news stories, they were real and happening. But I am glad. Look, the one thing that, to Glenn Jennings' credit, he's operated without malice. He's always said, look, we had companies together, we had a business together, we had a contract, and we needed a formal separation. That's now happened legally, and I'm glad that it's a settlement that's taken place out of the New South Wales Supreme Court, which is where it was headed if they couldn't come to an agreement and smoke the peace pipe legally. That's now been done financially, and to me, I'm glad that that's all behind him now and he can just fully focus on this fight. I know there's talk about whether it was the right call dumping his second team, Pedro Diaz, but at the end of the day, I think Jeff Fenech is the right motivator. And say what you will about Jeff, but he is aggressive, he's passionate, and I think he can find another level of percent that Tszyu will need to beat Errol Spence. And I really hope he does, because I'd love to see Tszyu pull off one of the great boilovers and keep marching on.
Here's the last one. How big will that Tszyu-Fenech sort of duo dynamic be during fight week media build-up?
Oh,
That'll be massive.
Massive. And it's a good point you make, because I think he'll alleviate some of the expectation on Tim, because he'll be doing a lot of media that week. And I remember seeing what it did to George Kambosos before Haney won. And I think George, on reflection, would say he was front and centre and he had to sell the fight. It was his home fight against Devin Haney. And to his credit, George sold it beautifully. He's a great salesman. But I could sense on fight day, it just took a bit out of George. And even he missed weigh-in for the first time in his career, which was very surprising. So sometimes all that external noise and the hoopla and the hype can be a real distraction for a fighter, and Tim with Jeff there can almost not worry about it as much, because Tim can almost deflect to Jeff, and Jeff will handle a lot of the media. He'll talk a good game, he'll be the perfect salesman for the fight, and he'll have a little crack at Spence along the way, which is what we want. Bring it on, Jay. Can't wait, mate.
Outstanding, Pete. See you tomorrow, mate.
Thanks, mate.